Elgood's Cambridge Scotch Ale.
Life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. Tonight, another one from the Elgood Brewery. Now I say another one, reason being is because I have reviewed quite a lot of Elgood's beer and it is very good indeed. Now they are quite a traditional brewery, but they also have a little thing going on with the fruit beers and the sour beers, which I don't know where that's come from, but they are unique in that I don't think there's any other brewery. Certainly they do fruit beers. Sam Smith's are big on the fruit beers as well, but sour beers from an English brewer is rare. You normally find the sours coming from craft brewers who do imitation of lambics. What's the other one they do? Gozes, not Gers, Gozes. And there's other sour beers that they do as well, like raspberry sours and shit like that. But basically, it's not done from a traditional brewer. It's really a sort of the sour beer is like a craft thing, but it's also a traditional Belgian thing as well. And to be honest, I quite like a sour beer. I am quite partial to a lambic or a Flemish red ale. But this stuff is what's known as a Scotch ale, or a wee heavy, as it's known up in Scotland. And what is the characteristics of that? Well, it's similar to a barley wine. How is it similar? Well, it's malt forward. The hops take a back seat in this. There is usually invert sugar in this. I think there's invert sugar in this one, but certainly in English style barley wines. Now, if you're talking barley wine, the first thing that most people think about is the gold label barley wine. And to be honest, that is not a good barley wine at all. I haven't reviewed it on the channel. I'm saying it isn't a good one, but it's brewed by Marston's, or it used to be. I haven't seen it in ages. I used to have it in Morrison's years ago, and I've not seen it since. So I don't even know. I'm sure you can get it. I'm sure it's still made, but I don't know how good it is. The flavours wouldn't be as big, in my opinion, as other better barley wines that are available. Now, I'll tell you who does a really good one, and I've just reviewed one of their beers, is Adnams. I've just reviewed the Adnams Old Ale, and that is superb. But the Adnams Tally Ho that they do is a fantastic barley wine. In fact, it's one of the best, and I'd go as far as to say it's probably the best that I've tasted so far. Now, there have been other barley wines that I've tasted. Ridgway do a barley wine, and that's quite nice as well. But the point I'm trying to make is that barley wine is a distinctive style, and it's sort of synonymous with the old ale style. And this stuff, the Scotch ale, or the wee heavy as it's known, is very similar in that it's high ABV, as I say, invert sugar, malt forward, hops take a back seat, and it's generally quite strong. Now, it's a renowned style, certainly up in Scotland as well. And you have heavies and wee heavies. Heavies are the stronger ale, and the wee heavies are this stuff. And yeah, you have to treat these with respect. They're on a par with the Belgian doubles and triples, even the quadruples in some respects. But they're not session beers. Yes, if you're not used to them, you'll say it's disgusting, it tastes like treacle. That's probably because of the invert sugar that's in here, and the quite malt forwardness of it, and the sweetness on it as well. I'll get onto the ingredients in the next section. There's quite an in-depth rundown of it on the Elgood site, which is another thing that I like. But Scotch ale, I have to say, is a very nice style of beer. Now, I have tried a few of the Scotch ales in my time. Who does that one called Wee Jock? They also do the, is it the 80 shilling as well? That's really nice. I did like that Wee Jock. That was very nice indeed. The other one that springs to mind is the Orkney Brewery Skull Splitter. That's kind of a barley wine, wee heavy type beer, but both very nice indeed. I think if you're going to get into this style, you need to be prepared for quite strong flavours. This is not a session beer. Some might say it's not their kind of thing, and I get that completely, because it's not your average bitter or ale, or certainly not your lager. It's the complete opposite of it. But it's a very interesting style, and it's a very traditional style as well, and it's a style that I do like. Now, the yeast does play a very big part in these as well. There's lots of flavours that do come from the yeast, quite fruity flavours as well, and it gives it that, I wouldn't say sherry, but it's got that sweet fortified wine taste, if you know what I mean. And yeah, as I say, I really do like it. Great style of beer, and I'm really looking forward to this. So let's shut up and get on to the ingredients in the next section. Right, let's dive into this one. It is a 330ml bottle. It is 9%. You have got to be really, really careful with these, because they will do some serious damage, and the hangover is merciless from this, believe me. What does it say on the side? Our traditional Scotch ale is a copper deep amber colour with a rich malt palate and subdued hop notes in the finish. Yes, that is a perfect description of how this Scotch ale, or a Scotch ale, should taste. We have used pale ale malt, crystal malt and invert sugar for a full, slightly fruity malt palate. Now, I'll get onto it into that in a sec, and it's balanced by Challenger hops. Right, the malt they've used is Maris Otter malt, and Maris Otter, in case you didn't know, is a fantastic malt. I would question why they've used Maris Otter malt in this, because the yeasty esters and the invert sugar are going to be really dominant in this, and it's the same with the Challenger hop as well. You're not going to get much of that Challenger hop spiciness. You will get some, don't get me wrong, it's not completely a wasted effort, but there are subtle flavours that come from this. The reason I say about the Maris Otter malt is quite expensive, and when you've got other stronger flavours, I'm not complaining, don't get me wrong. This is not a criticism, and it's not a complaint. In fact, it's a compliment that they've put Maris Otter into a beer that's got a lot of other things going for it as well. Another characteristic of this, in some cases, not all cases, but in some cases, is that you do get a backbone of alcohol in this. And again, this comes back to my previous point about certain people trying this and not really being enamoured with the flavour, calling it treacly and not nice, if you know what I mean. I think it's lovely. I think it really is a credit to this country that we brew beer like this. The Belgians do it, yes, they do, and they do it in their own unique style, but the British do it as well, and we do it really well. The Scotch with their Scotch, I shouldn't call them Scotch, they go mental when you say that. The Scottish with their Scotch ale, and the English with their barley wine. Two very nice styles of beer indeed, and not for the faint-hearted. That is about it really. That's all I'm going to give you. Here is the label if you are interested. Now, this is a limited edition. It's available on Beers of Europe at the moment if you fancy getting some. I think it's going to be a good one, because these are a fantastic brewery. I really do like what they do. I've just tried the Adnams mild. I vowed to do a head-to-head with their Elgood Black Dog, which is their mild, which has won loads and loads of awards. I'm looking forward to that, but not as much as I'm looking forward to getting this down my fat Gregory Peck. So let's shut up, get it open, see what's going on. Right, cap is just plain black. I don't think this is bottle conditioned. I know they put invert sugar in it, but I think this may be pasteurised. I don't know. It doesn't make any mention of it being a bottle conditioned beer. I'm pouring this into a traditional Scotch ale glass. That's what they look like. They're very small. They're like brandy snifters, and this is an old Watney's Scotch ale. I imagine that didn't taste too great. Never tasted it, but I did like the glass. And Watney's are a traditional English brewer. Sadly, no more. Beer wasn't that great though. Right. Oh, straight away. If you're into your German beer and you've ever tasted Doppelbock or ice bock. If you're into your Belgian beer and you've had doubles and quadruples, this is the aromas that you're getting from here. Sweet, fruity, very, very fruity, dark fruit, like raisin, sultana, forest fruit, that kind of thing. And just pungent notes of dark fruit, almost Christmas cake-like. I can actually feel the ethanol up my nose. There's a little bit of a slight burning sensation, but it's really, really rich and pungent in its aroma. Now the head has dissipated. That's not an alarm bell. With 9% ethanol, ethanol is the enemy of a head in beer, so that is not going to last long. For that reason, I'm going to try and get this down my Fat Gregory Peck ASAP. Good health. Oh, that is good. Oh, fuck me, that is brilliant. Let me dive in again. Oh, fuck. This is hefty. Right, the first thing that hits you is the ethanol. There is a ethanol backbone in this, and it is strong, believe me. It's 9%, and you do know that this is 9%. Now, the fruits on this are big, but the dominant flavour on this is cherry. The cherry is like a sweet, dark cherry, almost bitter, but it's very, very full-bodied, very strong indeed. Oh, it's really good. There is a sweetness on this as well, and that sweetness, as I mentioned in the previous section, it's almost sherry-like, if you can imagine that. It really is a beer to be savoured. It's not a guzzling beer. It's certainly not one that you can drink bottles and bottles of. And if you like your Belgian doubles and your quadruples, you are going to love this, and certainly your German Doppelbocks as well. But this has got a sweetness. The German Doppelbock, you do get some of that Bavarian malt character that's on there. This, on the other hand, it does have the invert sugar. That's big on there as well. And there's something about it I can't really put my finger on, but it's probably the yeast, because the Belgian doubles and the quadruples, the yeast does give that a uniquely Belgian style flavour. Certainly with the clove esters on there, and the candy sugar that they use in there. This is using sugar as well, as I mentioned, but this invert sugar, it's not candy sugar. One is cane sugar, the invert sugar is cane sugar, the candy sugar is beet sugar. What the difference is, well, there is obviously a difference in the source and how they're grown, but the flavours are sweet, as you can imagine. But this is really nice. It really is good, and it's very much in the barley wine style as well. So if you'd like your barley wines, you're going to love this. And I'm assuming that if you like barley wine, you've tasted Scotch ale, because the two styles are very, very similar indeed. But this is really good, and I need to calm it down a little bit because I'm drinking this a little bit too quickly, and this is not the kind of beer you want to be fucking necking, because it will come back and bite you on the arse, and you'll get Belgian legs, or will it be Scottish legs? But it really does look nice. I mean, there it is in the glass. It looks very dark, but if you hold it up to the light, I don't know if I can do that or not. Can I do that? Yeah, let's get my phone out and show you, because I want you to see this. Now, they call it a very dark amber, copper, and that's a pretty good description of it, because if I hold my phone up to it, you can see that it's like a very, very dark mahogany, brown, amber, copper style colour. Can you see that? I'm moving it around like, yeah, there you go. So that's what you're sort of getting. But it really is good. I have to say, this is a fantastic Scotch ale. Very, very good example of the style. In fact, I'm doing it again. I shouldn't really do this from memory, but the The Wee Jock I really did like, and certainly the Orkney Brewery Skull Splitter. This is up there with them. It really is that good. Very smooth as well. There's sometimes in the Belgian stuff you do get a little bit of a burning on the back of the throat and a warming sensation. You don't get that with this. But I can't emphasise how much the fruit, the dark fruit, the raisin, black cherry, red cherry as well even, and the sweet note from the sugar that comes through on this as well. It's very much like the Bateman's, if you can imagine that, the Bateman's Vintage Ale, the Fuller's. I'm pointing because I've got two Fuller's Vintage Ales looking at me, 2019 and 2020. I've resisted the urge to drink them. I've got two other bottles up there as well. But it's very much in that style, that really rich, strong English ale, even though this is Scottish, in the Scottish style, that English ale style. And it's lovely. It's one of my favourite styles of beer. Absolutely superb. I can see why it's a limited edition, because I think people would have one or two bottles of these and that would be it. This is a great example of the style. They've captured it perfectly, and on its own, this is a fantastic beer. So, what's the verdict on Elgood's Cambridge Scotch Ale? Well, it's fantastic, but I wouldn't have expected anything less from Elgood's. They've been going since, well, they can trace their lineage back to 1795, so they've got a fair bit of experience in brewing, and this is no exception. All the beers I've tried for them so far, apart from the sour that I tried, I wasn't too sure about that, but all the other stuff, the Elgood's Warrior was a great bitter. The mild that they do, the Black Dog, is one of the best milds I've ever tried. I'm going to put that up against the Adnams Old Ale. I have promised that in the last video, but that is going to be a thing, trust me. Forgot to mention this in the first section, a little bit tidbit of information. The brewery, or their brewery, was bombed during World War I by a Zeppelin, of all things. You didn't get many Zeppelin raids on the UK back in the First World War, but there were a few. Their brewery at the time was bombed, and they managed to keep the shell. It was firebombed actually, and they managed to keep the shell, and that's on display in the brewery. Never been there. It's in Wisbeach in Cambridge, so if you're from around that area or Lincolnshire, I'm sure you've seen their beers available. Fantastic beers. I'm sure they're great on draft. Another little tidbit of information. I put my Uncle Albert hat on. In World War II, the vats they had were melted down and given to the war effort, but they did manage to retain one, which is what they brewed their liquor in. So there is some of that heritage still left, and their building is Grade 1 listed since 1983. So that's how long it's been. That's how much it is revered in them parts. Never been to Wisbeach. Apparently it's in the Fenlands, which is flat as a witch's tit. Never been there. I've been to Cambridge before, but it was fucking hilly from what I remember. Anyway, I'm rambling. What do I think of this beer? It's fantastic. It is a fucking great Scotch ale, and I'm really impressed with it. So much so, I'm going to give that an 8.5, and I'm toying with the idea of giving it a 9, because it really is good. It's strong. It's got all the characteristics of a Scotch ale. It looks like a Scotch ale. It definitely tastes like a Scotch ale. The only thing that isn't Scottish about it is it's brewed by an English brewer. Now, a lot of the purists, certainly in Scotland, are probably going to be balking at that, but I don't care. This is really nice, and it is definitely worth an 8.5 out of 10. So yeah, get some. It's available on Beers of Europe, and you can also get it from their brewery as well. I'm not sponsored by them. I just like good beer, and I believe in supporting English brewers and Scottish brewers as well. So if you're brewing good stuff and I happen to come across it, you're going to know about it. But definitely try and get some of this if you like that style. I get that it's not for everyone. It's very strong, it's very rich, and it's probably not for your average lager drinker. And again, as I always say, I don't mean that condescendingly, but if you like your Fuller's Vintage Ale, if you like your Bateman's Vintage Ale, if you like that Golden Pride style flavour, you are going to effing well love this. So there you go. And remember, just like this stuff, beer is working class champagne.